It appears the Lions are setting up for a huge draft move, and we'll break that all down. If you're new to the channel, we cover the Detroit Lions, and we'd love for you to subscribe just because there's going to be a lot of stuff coming up here in the next couple of weeks with the NFL draft. We go live for the NFL draft. It's a lot of fun. Please join us for that. Craig and I are on here. It's super interactive. So make sure you check us out there. Okay, before we can look at what the move could be, we need to look at something interesting. First, here are the Detroit Lions remaining free agents. This is current players on the team last year that have not been picked up by anybody. And it's pretty interesting to look at because I mean, Tracy Walker was our safety before Iffy got healthy and came in, and nobody's picked him up. Jerry Jacobs was our corner. I mean, this is 2/3 of our secondary that aren't even getting looks on other teams. And that just really tells you kind of how bad that was and how the Lions have said, okay, we're goodbye, right? Get out of here. Vaitai was, I mean, going to be the starting right guard, but I mean he barely plays. Charles Harris was the edge that was supposed to be opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. He's not getting picked up. So like I mean, this is really interesting because like the market doesn't lie, right? This is where teams or players that really were supposed to play big roles for us kind of did unfortunately play big roles for us because I just they're not that good. And then Will Harris, he if we had trouble, he'd come in. So it's pretty interesting to see that. Now, here's how the big moves kind of setting up is you've got our own players that signed elsewhere this offseason. Josh Reynolds right here. This reminds me of the Jamal Williams, DeAndre Swift, where they're good. And I wouldn't hate having him back. I really wouldn't, but I think Brad Holmes is saying we need to get better there. And so when you saw Jamal Williams not return, and then we signed David Montgomery, it's like, all right, we have DeAndre Swift, but he drafts Jahmyr Gibbs, just better. So that's the move right there. That's like, because you look, Chauncey Gardner Johnson, I mean, he just ran his mouth too much and ran his mouth out of here. But the other ones, I mean, fine, right? Nothing really hurts us here. Jonah Jackson got big money. The rest of these guys kind of fringe players. We brought back all of the guys that were just kind of core players for us. But the one to see Josh Reynolds leave is interesting. So go back to history tells us that last year, remember that the Lions traded out of the number 6 pick, they traded back to number 12. And then the year before that, they sent 3 picks to Minnesota to move up for Jameson Williams at the 12th overall pick. So one thing about Brad Holmes in his last two drafts, he traded up and traded back for a superstar type player. And I think Brad Holmes says, I don't care about position of need. I don't care about any of that. What I'm looking for in the first round especially is a big time player and one that moves the needle offensively too, right? Like Jameson Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs. I think he loves that impact player, that splash player that you can get right early that you're just never going to find in free agency, right? Free agency is like everybody's 29, 30, 31. The best years are behind them. They still want big money where he knows I'm going to go draft a 22-year-old out of Alabama, out of South Carolina, right? That's going to just be a super impact. So that just tells us what he's looking to do. So now if you look at it, and if you look at the mock drafts and who's going to be around there, so this has kind of been changing. We're at 29. So there's 2 things that could happen. The Lions could go up here to get a player like Brian Thomas Jr. That's the one that we've been looking at. He's been going anywhere from 15 to 25. So you kind of wonder if he's still hanging around in the 20s. Do the Lions go up and get a primo receiver, 6'3", 209, LSU, everything you could want? Or they go backwards and say, you know what? We'll trade out of the first round and get a Keon Coleman or Xavier Worthy. That'd be crazy. Xavier Legette. I like him too. There's receivers top, ahead of the Lions and behind the Lions that they could go after. So there's a latest trade proposal where they talked about trading up. Let's find it. They trade up and the Lions met with Xavier Legette at the combine. I have the feeling that they like the physicality and the speed combo. The only question is his range. I've seen him appear in some first round mocks of late, but he also might be there at 61. A little bit of a project here, but I'm okay with it. So what they're talking about here is what would it take and what kind of move would you have to take or make to go get him? Would you have to go up or go back? And so if you look at the mock drafts, he's down here at 51. So the Lions, I don't think he's going to make it all the way to the Lions' next pick. So do you at 61 right here? So do you trade back and get him here and then pick up an extra like third round pick or something? That would be awesome as well. So let me know your thoughts in the comments as you think about the Lions and kind of what Brad Holmes is all about. What do you think's going to happen in round one? Also, the question I would have is what's the priority? Is it like playmaker, wide receiver, another one? We feel pretty good at wide receiver, but there is a hole. Or is it playmaker corner? You know, you can go get a corner, and you see it now in drafts in these mocks. I mean, it's full of DBs, full of corners. I mean, you got corner going 11, 12. Now I think there's going to be a lot of movement up here, and I think these corners might get slid down when some of these corner or quarterbacks go. But you see corner. I mean, I'm just lightly counting. There's like 6 corners in the first round, so keep that in mind as Brad Holmes might trade up, trade back, but he's done it the last 2 years. He goes and gets playmakers in round one. I just don't see him getting an offensive tackle or an interior offensive lineman. Maybe, and that might be, that we need that. So I don't know, but right, needs versus best player available. Is an interior offensive lineman the best player available? Usually it's like, well, not really. Usually it's another, playmaker type person. So keep that in mind as we get closer to the draft and what might happen. Again, we're going to go live for this, and so if you haven't subscribed, you definitely want to subscribe, because we're just going to have daily videos out talking about the draft and what's to come. And then once the draft gets here, you're picking players, and it's just fun now with Brad Holmes, because you're picking well, right? So that's just fun. You just like, man, I wonder what this 5th round player is going to be like. It's probably going to be pretty good. So let me know your thoughts in the comments, and we'll see all of you on the next one.